and things that really affect us that we can't ignore. And yet those are the ones that are most significant, because the universe has this habit of melodrama by saying, right, this is going to be so massive that you're not even going to be able to ignore this, because you're going to be awake thinking about it. And those little crises that we all come across in our lives, still, that is where the lesson is, that is where the growth is. And if we can just keep that dual dimensional view of dealing with it as a sensible adult, but also dealing with it as a spiritual adventurer, and get those two things working in parallel at the same time, in harmony, then usually you can move through them. And we all make mistakes, and crumbs, I certainly do when I go about my business. But even tripping up over your own shoelaces, it is part of that learning process. To make mistakes is okay. It's part of the growth. So, yeah, it's definitely a sign that the adventure continues when there are always, new twists and turns in the path. Just plain sailing really isn't part of the game here, as far as I can see. It's always something going on. You never really get a vacation while you're here. That's what I have learned, I tell you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it seems like somebody was talking to me once about the chaos, and he's going, so how's your life? Everything going great? And they're going, yeah, everything's smooth, everything's going great. And he goes, too bad. He said,
that's excellent.
Yeah, he said, you're not evolving, you're not learning anything. You're just cruising through and doing whatever needs to get done, and so, if you're not being challenged, or if you're not challenging the status quo or social consciousness, it seems like, it's very sad you've fallen back into the stupidity program or the...
Well, that's where we have to have this warrior attitude, and again, just whether it's at a philosophical or a very personal, banal level in the little things we have to take care of in our lives, that's significant. So the warrior attitude is important to be able to sort of face the universe and to face conflict and to face negative inorganic beings and to face our own demons and challenges and say, come on then, bring it on. It's like something that is smiled upon really, and something that is supported. And even though it can be a struggle, and sometimes you just throw your hands up and think, crumbs, is it worth it? When do we ever get to rest? You don't get to rest while you're in the training exercise really, and on the assault course, and that's what we're in the middle of. So the rest and the relaxation and the vacations, they come a little bit later, but for now we're right in the thick of it, and that's how it has to be. So the warrior mentality is important and is significant on this spiritual path. And the old Castaneda books from the 70s would go on about this warrior thing. And, I certainly understand why Castaneda chose that language, fictional or otherwise, to describe his sort of sorcerer's apprenticeship, because that is precisely the mentality that is appropriate for meeting these challenges head on, day after day after day.
Oh, I agree. It's funny, you're talking about the word alien, and, after my own awakening, and I'm still under that process, it seems like, but it was interesting because I knew I had a choice. I said, okay, I can either just go back into society and what I was doing and everything else, which was not an option, because I saw it for what it was, frequency of it and everything else, or I can go create another space where I can invite other aliens to hang out, people that are of like mind, to move forward in their own evolution. So I decided to take that journey, which was a much easier path, it seemed like, because boy, I was going nowhere the other way, and it just seems like I couldn't function anymore in society. I had to actually completely step out of society, get out in nature for a while, and get grounded and in this new reality. And then, once I was grounded in it, then I could, deal with it more as a warrior, or, with my feet on the ground, knowing this is right, this is the way I want to live, and I'm not going to, be absorbed again by the beast, by the soul.
Well, that's right. It's so, I completely empathise with everything you've said. It's so true. And even to risk people saying, oh, crumbs, Gilliland is freaked out, Kramer is freaked out, what on earth's happened? He used to do this, he used to do that, and it was also cool, and now he's doing this, oh my goodness, that has to happen, that has to happen. You have to step off the train totally, get off it, watch it disappear into the distance and stand there and scratch your head and look up at the sky and think, what the hell am I doing? If you never think that, you're doing something wrong. That's important to know that you are in a place of total and complete, disequilibrium, to be in a state where the harmony is shattered. There are no routines. You don't know what you're going to be doing in a month's time. That is good. That is a good thing. And it is part of the spiritual journey. And particularly in a society that values routines and predictability, it really does require a lot of guts to shove yourself into that kind of environment. And I've been in it, and I can tell from what you've just said that you have too. I think everybody goes through some level of that. And I think it's part of the traditional initiatory aspect of the spiritual journey to say, whether it's Buddha or Christ or many sort of Druidic and Celtic sages, to say you have to turn your back on the old way in the most undeniable and the most sort of implacable faith, to say, right, I am going to do that. And goodness, the universe really tests you when you do that. And it does it from a position of compassion and love ultimately. But early on, it sure feels like you're on your own with it. But I can say from my experiences, you're never on your own. And that's the wonderful thing about this. You're always supported in that. But that transition point, what you're talking about here is transition. That shift from one paradigm to another is very common to everybody who goes through this process, and is something that whenever you hear that story from someone else, you can just look into their eyes and you can see the light capture their eyes in a certain way, and you can just smile at them and think, I know exactly what you're talking about. And everybody knows what that smile means because we've all been through it. So that is collectively what the planet's going through right now. So all the craziness and earthquakes and wars and collapsing governments and lies and silliness, that is what the planet is going through. Is the old patterns and the old equilibriums have been smashed, and thank God for that, because they have to be. And it's only from that position of seeming chaos that a new, better system of energy can arise, one that is organic and free from the sort of synthetic toxins and rubbish that, has characterized it for the last sort of few millennia. And I am extremely optimistic about this, because I think that at a very, very fundamental level, most people now are not in a position to kid themselves anymore. And I think those who are still adamant at their own self-deceit will basically disintegrate themselves at a sort of spiritual level and just go back into the big recycling bin, and good luck to them and hope something good comes out the other end. But for everybody else, even in the mainstream, people really are ready for something new. And I think it's certainly our responsibility, and all the people who listen to this, to be positive, supportive, optimistic and strong about this, and just have that warrior mentality, because that is the thing that's going to make the difference between the new way and a nice kind of smooth bridge from the old way for those who are a little bit uncertain about how to cross that and might need a bit of support and a bit of hand holding. That is what we're here to do, and that is part of our job here, and I'm certainly going to be the first one there doing that.
Oh, I agree 100%. We have so many people coming through here, and we do a lot of transpersonal release sessions and getting people back on track and hooked back.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And it's amazing watching these transitions and that people go through, and it's just overwhelming how many people are just walking away from jobs, relationships, everything, and they're just saying, I can't do this anymore. It doesn't work. It doesn't bring me any joy. There's no love. there's nothing here for me anymore. And
I know. And so many people, say to me, well, how do you do it? How can I leave my job? How can I leave my